Ling instantly spun around in the wake of the commotion, and a slightly surprised look appeared on her face as she spotted Han Li and Lu Yuqing. However, in the next instant, her gaze fell upon the gray eyeball in Han Li's hand, and a furious look immediately appeared on her face. Ling turned around fully to face Han Li, and there were daggers shooting out of her eyes, as she said in a furious voice, "So you're the one who killed my other primordial fey beast. I would have been done here a lot sooner if it wasn't for you." Han Li's mouth was suddenly feeling a little parched. At this point, it had become apparent that the primordial fey beast that he had slain all those years ago just so happened to have belonged to Ling, and it seemed that it had been quite important to her as well. His mind was racing, and he hurriedly said to Lu Yuqing through voice transmission, "We have to split up and run." Immediately thereafter, he turned and fled into the distance. Lu Yuqing faltered slightly upon hearing this, seemingly still a little dazed and confused, but she then immediately reacted as well, flying away in another direction as a streak of azure light. "You're not getting away!" Ling harumphed coldly as she raised a hand and pointed a finger at Han Li from afar. A streak of white light instantly shot out of her sleeve, revealing itself to be a white rope that was giving off astonishing spiritual power fluctuations interspersed with faint law fluctuations. It was an immortal treasure, and it set off in pursuit of Han Li as a thin streak of white light. At the same time, she turned to the little primordial fey beast beside her and instructed, "Go and kill that woman." The primordial fey beast took a resentful glance at Han Li, but it clearly didn't dare to go against Ling's orders, and it stomped a foot down onto the ground, propelling itself toward Lu Yuqing as a yellow shadow. As Han Li was flying through the air, he could sense the white rope hurtling toward him from behind at an astonishing speed, and in the blink of an eye, it was only several kilometers away from him. He hurriedly conjured up a pair of golden wings on his back, then began flapping them rapidly to accelerate further in his escape. A cold smile appeared on Ling's face as she made a hand seal before pointing a finger forward, and the white rope instantly accelerated as well, transforming into a blurry white shadow that caught up to Han Li in an instant, then split up into 5 or 6 identical projections that pounced at Han Li from both the left and the right. Han Li was quite alarmed to see this, and arcs of golden lightning surfaced over his thunderstorm wings amid a rumbling thunderclap, allowing him to just barely evade the rope projections right before they closed in around him. In the next instant, he reappeared close to 10 kilometers away amid a flash of lightning, but there was a very grim look on his face. As it turned out, the spatial restrictions here were even more severe than the ones in the light frost region, and that was why he wasn't able to get any further away with his lightning movement technique. All of a sudden, Ling's voice rang out from directly behind Han Li. "Cease your futile resistance!" Han Li was extremely alarmed to hear this, and he didn't even have time to turn around to examine the situation as he hurriedly summoned his mantra-treasured axis, which instantly began to spin in reverse. At the same time, a flash of golden lightning erupted out of his thunderstorm wings once again, and he vanished for a second time amid a rumbling thunderclap, this time completing the sequence of actions several times faster than before. Only after reappearing close to 10 kilometers away, amid a flash of golden lightning, did Han Li dare to turn around, and he discovered Ling standing on the spot where he had just been a moment ago with a surprised look on her face. "It looks like you've got some unexpected tricks up your sleeve, but that's not going to save you." Ling harumphed coldly, and dazzling silver light surged out of her body before forming a pair of indistinct silver wings. The silver wings spread open, and Ling instantly vanished from the spot. Han Li's expression changed slightly upon seeing this, and he hurriedly unleashed his reversal true axis ability in conjunction with his lightning movement technique once again, allowing him to vanish from the spot amid a flash of golden lightning yet again. His lightning movement technique was greatly enhanced thanks to his reversal true axis, and he had only just vanished from the spot when Ling appeared up above, then reached out with one hand, and 5 streaks of gray light shot out of her fingertips. However, in the instant that the 5 streaks of gray light descended, Han Li had already disappeared, so she had failed to strike her target. Quling's expression remained unchanged as she turned to a certain direction, where Han Li stumbled out of thin air amid a flash of golden lightning. A cold sneer appeared on her face as she flapped her silver wings, vanishing from the spot once again in a wraith-like fashion. This time, picking up even more speed than before, a grim look appeared on Han Li's face as he continued to flee using his lightning movement technique, and thus a chase ensued, with a streak of silver light pursuing a streak of golden light through the air. The streak of silver light was only getting faster as time passed, and it was moving in a completely silent and wraith-like fashion, leaving a trail of silver after-images in its wake. However, the streak of golden light was able to keep up with its pace, and it was also getting faster and faster, just barely eluding the streak of silver light every single time. The thunderclaps ringing out from Han Li's lightning movement technique were ringing out more and more frequently, until it became one continuous rumbling sound with no gaps in between. As the chase continued, for some reason, the two returned to the Golden Palace. All of a sudden, Quling emerged out of thin air amid a flash of silver light, and her brows were slightly furrowed. Close to 10 kilometers away, Han Li also reappeared amid a flash of golden lightning, and he was panting slightly as he stared intently at Quling. Quling didn't continue to come after him, so he didn't continue to run. His immortal spiritual power was able to support both his reversal true axis and lightning movement technique at once, but moving at such a high speed was extremely taxing on his body and mind, so he was eager for some respite. I didn't think a mere true immortal like yourself would be able to elude me for so long. It looks like I'll have to get a little serious. Quling harumphed coldly as she vanished from the spot once again amid a flash of silver lightning. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, and he immediately sped away as an arc of golden lightning. However, right at this moment, the space around him abruptly shuddered, and a vast expanse of gray light emerged, forming a gray area that instantly encompassed everything within a radius of over 10,000 feet. Streaks of gray light were surging throughout this area, and there were countless gray shadows everywhere. Even though this area only had a radius of just over 10,000 feet, it seemed to be a completely independent realm that was extremely far away from the outside world. An arc of golden lightning appeared on the edge of the gray area, and it was like a fish that had been caught in a net, unable to break free despite its desperate struggles. As a result, Han Li was forced to reappear with a grim look on his face. It was clear that this was a domain ability. On that transient guild mission to kill Ping Yaozi, Han Li had witnessed Gujie's avatar unleash a domain ability. But that was only a pseudo-domain, and it couldn't even begin to compare with this gray domain. At this moment, he felt as if he had fallen into a vast gray swamp, and bursts of spatial power interspersed with law powers were converging toward him from all directions, rendering him virtually completely immobilized. The countless gray shadows within the domain resembled countless ghosts that were pouncing at him from all directions, and they were the source of the bursts of restrictive law powers. Even before the gray shadows arrived, Han Li was struck by a sense of feebleness, and his immortal spiritual power circulation had also become a little sluggish. What kind of law power is this? Han Li was greatly alarmed as he let loose a low roar, and his mantra-treasured axis appeared. The time law thread on the axis was glowing radiantly, and it was releasing bursts of time law powers that enveloped his entire body. Even though only a small portion of the time Tao runes on the mantra-treasured axis were active, and the time law powers they were releasing was rather sparse, the laws of time were still one of the 3 paramount laws, and the sensation of feebleness in his body was significantly alleviated. Han Li immediately took advantage of this opportunity to make a hand seal, and a giant azure sword instantly appeared in front of him. The sword was giving off dazzling azure light, and there were thick arcs of lightning surging all over its surface. It was giving off an astonishingly formidable aura, and it was lashed through the 4 times in different directions like lightning. 4 massive sword projections appeared before striking the surrounding gray shadows, and all of them were eradicated in an instant. But even more gray shadows continued to converge toward Han Li from all directions. Han Li took a deep breath to muster up his resolve, then lashed out with his azure bamboo cloud swarm sword at his surroundings over and over again, keeping all of the gray shadows at bay. At the center of the gray domain stood Qiuling with her hands clasped behind her back, and at this moment she was staring at Han Li with a combination of shock and elation on her face. He's a cultivator of the laws of time, and he's already manifested a law thread. Even the heavens are on my side, Qiuling chortled with glee. But a contemplative look then appeared on her face, and it seemed that she was rather conflicted about something. However, a determined look then quickly surfaced in her eyes, and she began chanting an incantation while sweeping her sleeves through the air. And a gray throne appeared behind her amid a flash of gray light. This throne appeared no different from the thrones of mortal emperors, except it was gray in color instead of golden. And there was a gray dragon wrapped around each of the armrests. In contrast with normal dragons, these 2 dragons were extremely sinister and menacing in appearance, and the entire gray throne was giving off a burst of vast law fluctuations. Qiuling sat down onto the throne, and her aura was elevated once again as a layer of silver light emerged over her face to obscure her facial features, and it was as if she had instantly transformed into a cold and regal queen. She then raised a hand before setting it down onto the head of one of the gray dragons on the armrest, and the dragon instantly opened its mouth to release a ball of dense gray light with countless gray runes flashing within it. The ball of light was giving off terrifying law power fluctuations, and it fused into the gray domain in a flash, upon which the size and number of gray shadows in the domain instantly increased drastically. As a result, the pressure on Han Li also became severely heightened, and his expression darkened even further as he channeled all of his immortal spiritual power into his azure bamboo cloud swarm swords, causing it to glow even more brightly as it swept toward the surrounding gray shadows. At the same time, 4 treasures appeared above his head in succession, namely a miniature gray mountain, a silver bell, a black tusk sword, and a large black flag.